Why do so many people worship Jesus when Jesus himself told us to worship only the unseen God? Have you ever pondered this paradox? Welcome to a journey of exploration and discovery where we delve into the depths of religious teachings and interpretations. Today, we are discussing a topic that has intrigued theologians, historians, and individuals alike: the common perception of Jesus' teachings. Throughout the ages, Jesus Christ has been widely revered. Followers of Christianity, which amount to nearly 1/3 of the world's population, often direct their worship towards Jesus. This practice is deeply ingrained, a pillar of faith that has been handed down through generations. Yet, if we leaf through the pages of the New Testament, we encounter a different narrative. Jesus Christ, in many instances, directs his followers to worship not him, but the unseen God. He emphasizes the importance of a relationship with God, of prayer, faith, and devotion directed towards the divine entity that cannot be seen or touched. It's also worth noting that according to religious law, creating or worshipping images of Jesus or any holy men sent by God is also considered a violation, an act of idolatry. Despite this, the practice persists, adding another layer to the paradox we're exploring today. So why this disparity? How did we go from worship the unseen God to a widespread practice of Jesus worship? The answer, as with most things in life, isn't straightforward. It's a complex tapestry woven from threads of interpretation, tradition, and perhaps a touch of divine mystery. Could it be that the original teachings have been lost in translation or altered over time? Or is it possible that the essence of Jesus' teachings is not in the object of worship, but in the act of worship itself? Could the worship of Jesus be a metaphor, a way to connect with the divine? These are questions that have sparked debates, fueled explorations, and inspired countless interpretations. And while we may not find definitive answers, the exploration of these questions can lead us to a deeper understanding of faith and spirituality. So, if Jesus taught us to worship the unseen God, why do we see so many worshiping him instead and even creating his images? Let's dive deeper into this conundrum. To seek answers, we turn to the New Testament, the very words of Jesus himself. The New Testament, a collection of writings that constitute an essential part of the Christian Bible, is where we find the teachings of Jesus. It's interesting to note that in these texts, Jesus often speaks of the worship of an unseen God. Let's delve into this a little deeper. Take, for instance, the book of Matthew chapter 4, verse 10. Here, Jesus says, "Get behind me, Satan, for it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him only shall you serve." Jesus is quoting from the book of Deuteronomy here, clearly stating that worship should be directed only towards God. Similarly, in the book of John chapter 4, verse 24, Jesus tells a Samaritan woman, "God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth." Once again, he is directing worship towards God, not himself. In the book of Luke chapter 4, verse 8, Jesus responds to Satan's temptation by saying, "It is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him only shall you serve." This repetition of the command to worship God alone is striking. In none of these instances does Jesus direct worship towards himself. Instead, he repeatedly emphasizes the worship of the unseen God. His teachings, as relayed in the New Testament, consistently promote the worship of God as a spiritual entity who is not physically visible. This raises a significant question. If Jesus himself directed worship towards God, not himself, how did the practice of worshiping Jesus develop? Could it be a result of translations and interpretations over the years? Is it possible that the original intent of Jesus' teachings has been lost or distorted in translation? In light of these verses, it becomes clear that Jesus directed worship towards the unseen God, not himself. So, how did we arrive at the current practice? Could the answer lie in the translations and interpretations of these sacred scriptures? It's an intriguing thought, isn't it? Let's delve deeper. The Bible has been translated into over 2,000 languages. Each translation inherently involves interpretation. The choice of words, the framing of phrases, even the punctuation can subtly change the meaning. But let's pause here and ponder upon an interesting fact. It was the Greeks who first translated the New Testament. They were steeped in their own mythology, where gods had offspring. Could it be that they implanted these concepts into their translations? After all, in Greek mythology, it wasn't uncommon for gods to have sons. This could explain why is mentioned as the Son of God. Over centuries, these translations may have shifted the focus of worship from the unseen God that Jesus referred to towards Jesus himself. Now here's a provocative idea. Could these alterations, these shifts, be the work of something more sinister? Could it be that Satan, the great deceiver, is influencing these translations to lead believers astray? It's certainly an idea worth contemplating. Remember, the Bible is a sacred text, and its interpretation should be approached with the utmost care. So, the practice of Jesus worship could be a result of these altered interpretations and Greek influence, not the original teachings of Jesus himself. Today, we've delved into an intriguing aspect of Christian theology. We've explored the common perception of Jesus' teachings and contrasted it with what Jesus himself said in the New Testament. While many see Jesus as a divine figure to be worshipped, his own words point to a different direction. He consistently redirected honor and worship toward the unseen God, highlighting the importance of a direct relationship with the divine. We've also examined the role of translations and interpretations. It's fascinating to see how these processes can subtly shift our understanding of scriptural texts. Some might argue that it's Satan's influence that allows for such distortions. However, it's crucial to remember that interpretation is a human act, influenced by our own perceptions and biases. Ultimately, the words of Jesus from the New Testament remind us to worship the unseen God. It is up to us to reflect on these teachings and how we choose to practice our faith.